This player shattered all the equipment on his body. Now, he sits on the ground, questioning life. Unexpectedly, he obtained a beginner's weapon. Planning to quit the game after breaking this fire stick, he accidentally strengthened the fire stick to its highest level. The cost? 30 years of being single. Thus, the strongest beginner weapon, the fire stick, was born. Just dropping this weapon on the ground by accident parted the earth into two halves, and in the process, it wiped out 850,000 players. Just when the man thought he could rule the world with the fire stick, a sudden system message brought him back to reality. Fire stick's durability was down to 3/5, and it couldn't be repaired. Just a couple of hits reduced its durability from 5 to 3, which meant it only had 3 hits left. This meant he couldn't use the weapon freely to crush noobs anymore. So he made an outrageous decision to take the fire stick and challenge the final boss of this world. After stepping over the corpses of countless warriors, he arrived at the Dragon Soul, the strongest boss in the game. The two-headed dragon Deathwing appeared before him. Deathwing the Nameless, the scorn of fate, the ender of all things, unstoppable, inevitable, the endless cataclysm. Ignoring Deathwing's overly dramatic monologue, the protagonist lightly swung his fire stick. The two-headed dragon instantly became one-headed. As he prepared to swing a second time, to finish off the remaining head, Deathwing began trembling. He had never encountered such a player before, who could take him down in just a few hits. So, he quickly begged for mercy. "Big bro, don't shoot. Big bro, I'm on your side. I have something to say. Listen to me." Deathwing had lost all of his former arrogance. Trembling, he asked the protagonist who he really was. The protagonist impatiently replied, "Stop bothering me. Get moving already." With that, he swung the fire stick in his hand. A blinding golden light flashed. Deathwing was split into two halves instantly. Lying on the ground, it looked utterly defeated. The protagonist looked at the fire stick in his hand. Its durability was down to 1. He sighed. "If only this weapon didn't have durability issues," he said. Hearing this, Deathwing clung to this hope like a lifeline. "Big bro," it quickly said. "Are you worried about the weapon's durability? Leave such a trivial issue to me." Hearing this, the protagonist stopped immediately. He motioned for Deathwing to continue. Deathwing explained, "I can sign a master-servant contract with you. My soul can become the spirit of your weapon. In this way, big bro, your weapon will evolve into the master sword. It will have infinite durability." Protagonist, astonished by such a possibility, burst into hearty laughter. Deathwing, clueless and terrified, trembled. Without any hesitation, the protagonist accepted the contract. A purple magic circle slowly lit up beneath him. Soon, Deathwing's physical body began to dissipate. Its soul was directly embedded into the fire stick. Looking at the notification in front of him, the protagonist beamed. He now possessed an invincible weapon with infinite durability. He could finally do as he pleased. However, unbeknownst to him, a bounty had already been posted in the player's main city. The reward was a staggering 10 billion. This man was now the top-ranked wanted criminal with a 10 billion bounty. He walked around wearing only underwear. Oops, wrong BGM. This man was now the top-ranked wanted criminal with a 10 billion bounty. He went out every day in just his underwear. Because yesterday, he got incredibly lucky. He shattered all his gear into pieces. Yet unexpectedly, he strengthened a beginner's weapon to plus 99. Even the game's strongest boss, Deathwing, was now the spirit residing in this fire stick. When this plus 99 fire stick accidentally hit the ground, it literally cracked the earth open, and along the way, it killed 850,000 players. This attracted the attention of the 5 strongest guilds in the world. For the first time ever, they united. The warriors stood in full formation, ready for action. They issued a level 3's bounty against him. Operation Codename: Hunt the Underpants Man. Yet, Underpants Man was completely unaware. While munching on a chicken leg, he chatted casually with Deathwing, the weapon spirit. Listening to Deathwing's constant flattery, Underpants Man thought life couldn't get any better. Suddenly, eerie Japanese echoed behind him. A powerful force pinned Underpants Man to the ground. He couldn't move. The one who struck him down was none other than Hanzo, the commander of the hunt. Taking advantage of his weakened state, Hanzo ordered his men to surround him completely. Even the rooftops were packed with flames. Hanzo then commanded them to tie him up and throw him in jail. But just as they were about to act, Underpants Man suddenly woke up. This terrified the surrounding soldiers. The soldiers hesitated no longer. Underpants Man pulled out the arrow lodged in his body. Holding his fire stick, he remained calm, looking at the sea of soldiers before him. A classic line echoed in his mind. "You want to be a coward for life, or a hero for 1 second?" At that critical moment, Underpants Man smirked evilly, and swung his fire stick. At that instant, all the players saw their ancestors. The entire world shook violently. A mushroom cloud rivaling Lil Boy shot into the stratosphere. When the smoke cleared, the scene was littered with corpses. Only the barely breathing Hanzo remained. Struggling to get up, Hanzo looked around, and discovered that the capital city had vanished into thin air. Watching Underpants Man slowly approach, Hanzo trembled in fear, but seeking revenge, he gritted his teeth and reached into his pocket. He pulled out his most expensive item, the sky-piercing arrow. As the saying goes, one sky-piercing arrow summons 1,000 troops. The moment Hanzo crushed the item, countless large teleportation arrays appeared on the ground. In less than 3 seconds, all 3 million members of the allied guilds were summoned to the battlefield. Looking at the countless soldiers around him, Hanzo regained his confidence. He issued the only command for this operation. The 3 million soldiers glared menacingly at the naked man. They intended to charge at him to snatch his underwear. Oh no, his fire stick. A stick that had been strengthened 99 times. Even Tencent would be speechless. Facing the attack of 3 million people, Underpants Man simply sighed lightly. Then he raised his fire stick. In an instant, he became a desktop cleaner, creating a vacuum zone in the middle of the crowd. Though the participants in this siege were all top-ranking players, in front of the ultimate fire stick, they were nothing but clowns. He then swung the fire stick again, unleashing the golden snake dance, randomly selecting a row of lucky players. He sent them straight to heaven with Deathwing's help. Deathwing watched in astonishment. Even in his past life as the strongest boss in the game, he couldn't handle 1 million players so easily. Suddenly, the Crusaders Guild leader, Go, appeared, leading his guild members behind Underpants Man. He leapt high, attempting to defeat him with a mountain slash. But Underpants Man, unfazed, smirked, and sent them flying with an uppercut. In the process, he tore another gap in the allied forces. Seeing this, the kingdom's strongest mage, Labrador, refused to be outdone. He formed a magical team in mid-air, and began chanting an obscure spell, summoning the strongest Western magic circle, with a shout of, Avada Kedavra. A massive energy beam erupted from the magic circle, heading straight for Underpants Man. Facing such a powerful magical attack, Underpants Man marveled at the skill's cool name. He decided his own attack needed a loud and flashy name too. He raised his fire stick upwards, and casually said, let's call this move the uppercut. The powerful attack ended up hitting Earth directly, and the seemingly invincible magic circle shattered with a loud crash. Labrador stared at the scene in disbelief. His mages quickly regrouped, preparing to unleash another spell. But then, in the distance, they saw Underpants Man raise his branch high. As he swung it downward, he murmured the skill name. Downward Punch. A powerful shockwave instantly sent the Royal Magic Corps flying. What was supposed to be a 1 vs 3 million war turned into an overwhelming defeat. Hanzo, the commander-in-chief, watched helplessly. He muttered to himself, this can't be real. Over and over, as if he had gone mad. Seeing Underpants Man approaching with his fire stick, Hanzo asked in confusion, why did you spare my life? The next second, the fire stick smashed into his face. It turned out that before the battle began, Hanzo had dishonorably launched a sneak attack, shooting an arrow right into Underpants Man's butt. Just as Underpants Man thought the fight was over, and he could celebrate with Xiaoyi, he heard footsteps behind him. Startled, he wondered who could still be alive. He turned around in confusion, only to see a woman descending like a celestial goddess. But there was no trace of joy on his face, because what this woman had done to him was something he'd never forget. This Underpants Man had just achieved every man's ultimate dream, to strengthen a beginner's weapon to plus 99. Single-handedly, he defeated 3 million top players. Yet, just 3 days ago, he was a newbie in the game. He tried to form a party but was harshly rejected. Even kids looked down on him. In his frustration, he cursed the game as trash. Just then, a cute lowly girl approached him, asking if he wanted to team up. Overjoyed, the protagonist's heart soared. He thought, this game is a masterpiece. On the way to the dungeon, the man kept boasting about being a big spender in the game. He bragged about recharging a total of 300 yuan. Seeing the lowly girl's admiring gaze, he started imagining a series of future events. From dating, to proposing, to getting married and having kids. He even began pondering what to name their daughter. At that moment, the lowly girl stopped, announcing they had arrived. While the protagonist looked around in confusion, the lowly girl suddenly swung around and attacked. The protagonist spat out a mouthful of blood. He fell to the ground, convulsing uncontrollably. Shocked, he asked the lowly girl what she was doing. Could it be, you're after my 300 yuan newbie package? But the lowly girl, looking innocent as ever, said, who wants your trash weapon? Idiot, I lured you here just to kill you. Why else would I party up with garbage like you? You're probably a loser in real life too. Bragging about a 300 yuan newbie pack. Are your parents beggars? The venomous words darkened the protagonist's expression. He got up, ready to fight for his dignity. But the lowly girl struck him down again, slicing him cleanly in half. Even then, the lowly girl kept spewing insults. When the protagonist hit the ground, lifeless, the lowly girl finally heard the long-awaited system notification. Mission complete. You have unlocked the hidden class, Life Goddess. Even her black outfit evolved into a white robe. Wings sprouted from her back as well. It turned out that, to complete her class quest, the lowly girl had already killed 1,000 lucky players. Now that the mission was complete, the lowly girl stretched lazily, stepped over the protagonist's corpse, and walked away. On that day, the protagonist understood the truth of the game. Survival of the fittest. To avoid being bullied, he had to keep getting stronger. With this realization, he stopped hesitating. He pulled out the game's ultimate tool, the Hammer of Reinforcement. He started with a +3 two-handed sword, 80. Then a +5 iron-blooded gauntlet, 80. As expected, it shattered into pieces. Unwilling to give up, the protagonist pulled out all his gear and began hammering frantically. In less than 10 minutes, he found himself with nothing left but an unremovable pair of underwear. As he wept quietly, ready to quit the game, he suddenly spotted a fire stick. Without thinking, he gave it a swing with his hammer. To his surprise, it strengthened successfully. The protagonist was completely dumbfounded. If only I had more sticks to use as a buffer. Giving up on strategy, he started hammering the fire stick relentlessly. His plan was to break everything and quit. But unexpectedly, +99 beginner's weapon fire stick was born. +99 forever. Don't let her sweet and innocent face fool you. This girl had already killed 1,000 players, just to complete a class quest. And the protagonist was her 1,000th victim. Now, armed with the strongest beginner's weapon in history, the protagonist had defeated 3 million players. Who else? As he turned around, he saw the lowly girl who had killed him before. With a mocking grin, she called him worthless. This infuriated the protagonist, making him laugh. He wasn't the same newbie anymore. Having killed so many, he didn't mind adding one more. Who cares about lawless? Women only slow down my sword draw. To his surprise, the lowly girl smiled slightly and said, thanks to you, I completed my final class quest. I'm no longer a lowly mortal. I am now the world's only life goddess. Hearing this, the protagonist scoffed. Killed just 1,000 people? And you call yourself a life goddess? I killed 3 million people. I must be the reincarnation of the king of hell. The next second, he slammed his stick into the ground. Fiery explosions and deafening blasts filled the world. But when the smoke cleared, the life goddess suddenly appeared behind him. Startled, the protagonist spun around, slamming his fire stick into the ground. This time, he watched as flames engulfed her entirely. Just as he smiled and said, that's all you've got, he suddenly saw, in the crater, the unharmed life goddess, smiling back at him. Are you serious, weakling? Haven't I already told you? I'm the life goddess now. How could a mere human harm a god? Hearing this, the protagonist smirked, then raised his fire stick with a grin. He charged at the life goddess in a single stride. One powerful strike, after another. The fire stick in his hand blurred into sword trails. The series of explosions shook the entire earth. Yet, standing at the center of the explosions, the life goddess remained unmoved. She even flew around in the air, fluttering her wings. Then, as if to taunt him, she landed gracefully before him. Looking up at him with mocking eyes, the protagonist didn't respond. He simply sighed softly and turned to walk away. The life goddess mocked him, asking if he was giving up. The protagonist merely stretched his shoulders and said, now I'm serious. Maybe this time I'll split you in half. Hearing this, the life goddess began to laugh, until she caught the last two words, the earth. It turned out the protagonist planned to destroy the entire planet to kill her. Hearing this, the goddess was shocked. Isn't this a Syrian truck tactic? Blowing yourself up at the slightest disagreement? The protagonist's face was filled with satisfaction. If I go down, we all go down. For the first time, panic appeared on the goddess's face. But it was too late. This final strike contained all of the protagonist's strength. The moment the fire stick hit the ground, countless shockwaves spread outward. The next second, cracks appeared all over the ground, spreading rapidly across the earth. With a loud boom, the Earth vanished completely from the universe. What the heck? Who did I offend? What happens when a beginner weapon is strengthened to +99? This man, in order to defeat the life goddess, used all his power, and smashed the strongest fire stick in history into the ground, and it shattered the Earth into pieces. Even the entire server crashed. Other players were forcibly logged out. The official game website even issued an emergency announcement. As for the culprit, the protagonist wasn't ejected from the gaming pod. Instead, he found himself in a strange blue space. Standing before him was a blonde man who claimed to be a god. The blonde man told the protagonist that his attack had wiped out everyone on Earth number 4137. Hearing this, the protagonist burst out laughing. I don't care about the others. Have you seen a black-haired woman? The blonde man shook his head. Nope. It's just the two of us here. Who could survive such an explosion anyway? Hearing this, the protagonist couldn't help but laugh out loud. That woman is finally gone. Even gods are overrated. As he turned to share the good news with his firestick spirit, he noticed an eerie silence from the weapon. The blonde man said, "Don't bother. I already told you, it's just us here." Puzzled, the protagonist checked the system panel. It showed only one user online. Who is this guy in front of me? Damn it, is this game haunted? As the blonde man tried to introduce himself, his words were suddenly censored by the system. Seeing this, he sighed in frustration. Guess I got caught by the system too quickly. Well then, until next time. And don't forget to say hi to the bearded man for me. The protagonist was dumbfounded. What the hell is this blonde guy talking about? The next moment, a bright light flashed, and he was forcibly logged out of the game. As the protagonist stepped out of his gaming pod, still pondering the blonde man's words, he suddenly saw a bearded man sitting right in front of him. Scarred, bespectacled, and smoking a cigar. He looked anything but friendly. The bearded man stood up, walking toward the protagonist. As he approached, he began reciting personal details. Name: Lee Ziyu, 21 years old. Started playing Temporal Life 3 months ago. Your weapon: a +99 fire stick, correct? The intimidating presence made Lee Ziyu shiver. With a trembling voice, he asked who the man was. The bearded man took off his sunglasses and said menacingly, "I'm here to take your stick." An hour later, they were all at a small diner run by an old lady. As the bearded man ate, he began explaining the whole situation. It turned out he was Lao Kui, the game's creator. The supposed bodyguards around him were actually company employees. They had come to find him to retrieve the +99 fire stick. Hearing this, Lee Ziyu became anxious. "I worked hard to strengthen it step by step." Lao Kui replied, "I understand your frustration. But hear me out first. Normally, the success rate for strengthening weapons is 3%. The higher the level, the lower the odds. You know the probability of reaching +99? It's lower than winning a 3 billion lottery. But if we really wanted to reclaim it, we could have just sent an email to destroy it. Why would I come to speak with you personally? Temporal Life is a game built on freedom. You didn't use cheats or exploits to affect the game. My personal stance is not to interfere with you. Whether it's defeating the strongest boss, slaying 3 million players, or destroying the entire Earth, it's all your freedom. But I hope you'll stop breaking the game. Take your time to enjoy the free and romantic, adventurous world of the game. Perhaps, become the strongest boss in the game yourself." Do you know what invincibility sounds like? Control plus num1. Infinite materials. Lee Ziyu is precisely this kind of invincible man. He single-handedly defeated 3 million players and the strongest boss. He even smashed the Earth and the server itself. But he didn't cheat. He relied solely on his +99 fire stick. Even when confronted by the game's creator face-to-face, he confidently declared, "I, Liu Benwei, didn't cheat." Lao Kui, moved by his sincerity, decided to let him keep the weapon and continue playing. Thus, Ji returned to the game with his fire poker. He sat leisurely on a hillside, basking in the sun. Meanwhile, he watched an adventurer team in the valley below. They were teaming up to clear a dungeon. Their enemy was a muscular minotaur standing in their way. The mage raised his staff high. He hurled a meteor-like fireball at the monster. The monster was engulfed in flames, roaring in pain. Seeing this, the team cheered. A few more hits, and they could take it down unharmed. Suddenly, the female fighter started charging powerfully. She rushed toward the flaming minotaur. Her aim was flawless, right at the minotaur's foot. The next second, she was knocked flying. At that moment, the mage still didn't realize the gravity of the situation, until a shadow suddenly loomed in front of him. The airborne fighter crashed directly onto him. Young people have strong bodies, after all. The mage fell asleep instantly, unconcerned about location. But his teammates didn't share his sentiment. Without the mage, how could they clear the dungeon? Meanwhile, Ji-yu, sitting on the hillside, watched the scene unfold with ease. Behind him, the spirit Xiao Yi was devouring chicken drumsticks. Ji-yu picked up the fire poker beside him and looked at the system notification in front of him. He recalled the words of the game's creator, Old Kui. He had been told to fully enjoy the freedom and romance of the game. Suddenly, a "tui" sound pulled Ji-yu back to reality. A glob of spit landed on the fighter's chest. What followed were middle fingers and harsh insults from teammates. Then, the fighter was kicked from the team. The teammates left without looking back. Ji-yu, sitting on the mountain, witnessed everything. He gazed at the lonely figure of the female fighter. What freedom and romance! The truth of this game is survival of the fittest. As he jumped to his feet, ready to take down the 3 players, the fighter suddenly shouted in anger. "This trash game, do you guys even know how much money I've spent on this game?" Seeing this scene, Ji-yu felt a sense of deja vu. Wasn't this exactly like the countless rejections he faced in the past? A humiliating scene? At this moment, the female fighter angrily walked toward the monster alone. She didn't realize a group of minotaurs had gathered ahead. Each one charged at her with gaping, bloody mouths. Seeing this terrifying scene, the fighter was so frightened that she covered her eyes, frozen. At that moment, Ji-yu appeared like a god descending. He stood directly in front of the fighter, raising the fire poker in his hand. He gave it a gentle flick. A massive attack shot out, soaring past the earth. As the smoke gradually cleared, the fighter slowly opened her eyes, only to find, standing before her was a guy holding a beginner's weapon. So broke he had nothing but his pants. Ji-yu then revealed what he thought was his most charming smile, and extended a team invitation to the girl. "Come on, little lady. Let this lord show you what it's all about."